I'll race you to space.
Yeah, I want to talk about this. My name is William, and this is a school project about how capitalism beat communism in a banger war, the Space War. Now, for the sake of this project, I'm mostly going to be talking about stuff in the Space War and not stuff in the Cold War, which means I'm not going to be talking about any other stuff unless I feel it's necessary to bring up. I do want to talk about the Cold War at least a tiny bit, just so you have more context to understand why this is the way it is. The abridged version is that the USSR was trying to spread communism worldwide, but we still hate communism at this time. But since we both have atom bombs, we can't exactly fight or else it'll be the end of the world. So we're kind of forced into a standstill. Anyway, now we can talk about the Space War, right? Well, yes and no. I'm going to talk about the social, political, economic, and cultural perspectives of the Space War. And I'll occasionally bring up events from the Space War to support my ideas though. I'm going to talk about the social perspective first, as I feel that's the easiest one to talk about and digest. After we won the Space War, Americans basically felt like they were on top of the world, even more than they already were. And the opposite is true for the Soviet Union. In fact, their morale was so low that they broke apart into 7 different pieces. I'm like 10% joking though. There's a lot of other reasons why the USSR broke up, but the US beating them was certainly not doing them any favors. There's not that much to talk about political wise, since like 90% of it just links back to the Cold War. But for that 10%, it was basically just them trying to obtain space to prove their superiority. Whoever landed on the moon first would prove the other one had better military, research, and resources. In my opinion though, the most interesting that came out of this were the technological advancements. If it wasn't for the space race, our technology wouldn't be as nearly as good as it is today. An obvious example is a satellite. Without the space race or a potential World War III, we just would not have made these. But there's also some simple things too, like a smoke detector. And a lot of other day-to-day things all exist purely because of the Space War. The economy is a little more difficult to talk about, specifically for the US, mostly because there's not really a lot out there. But from what I did find, the economy was pretty good in the US. In fact, it boomed. A thought to support this theory is that because NASA is hiring so many workers, there were a lot more job opportunities for other companies. Same cannot be said for the USSR though. In fact, their poor economy was one of the reasons they lost the Space War. They simply did not have the funds for the Space War or their massive country.